marriage counseling and family counseling now for 30 plus years. And my books are sort of an overflow of that, because in the counseling room you encounter all sorts of situations and you run into the same thing over and over and over again. And eventually I began to think, well, if I could put some of the things I'm sharing with these individuals in a book and do it in a readable form that the average person could get, I could help a lot of people. So that's really what I'm doing in all my books.
Helping people.
Helping people. That's my goal.
That's what it's all about. When the concept of the love languages, where was that birthed in you? Because you've subsequently done, 5 love languages for teenagers, for men, and gone on and on beyond that. But where did that concept come from?
It came in marriage counseling. I was hearing people over and over again sit in my office, and one of them would say, many times the wife would say, I just feel like he doesn't love me. And the husband would say, I don't understand her. I do everything, I can to show her that I love her, and yet she sits there and tells you that she doesn't feel loved, and I don't know what else to do.
In other words, I love her, and I've done everything I know how to do.
And he's serious. He's sincere.
And so is she.
And so is she.
Yeah, right. No one's trying to lie here or abuse the...
So I would say to him, well, tell me, what are you doing to show your love? And he would say, well, I get home before she does in the afternoon, so I start dinner. Every night I start the dinner. And he said afterwards, if I don't have a meeting, I wash the dishes. And then the weekends, I mow the grass, I wash the car, and he goes on telling me what he does, and I'm beginning to wonder, what does this woman do? I mean, he's doing everything.
Okay.
And when he gets through, I look at her, and she would say, he's right. He does all those things, and I appreciate that. And then she would start crying. And she'd say, but Dr. Chapman, we don't ever talk. We haven't talked in 30 years. So you see, she's dying for quality time with him, undivided attention, conversations.
Sure.
And he's doing acts of service. So what I did, I kept hearing these stories, similar stories. I went through about 12 years of the notes that I had made when I was counseling people and asked myself, when someone said, I feel like my spouse doesn't love me, what did they want? I had it in my notes. It was what they were complaining about. And their complaints fell into 5 categories. And I later called them the 5 love languages. And the book's been out now for, 15 years. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for the last 80-some weeks after 15 years. And
that's incredible.
It's sold 5 million copies in English. It's been translated in 38 languages around the world. So I think it's addressing a fundamental need, and that is the need to feel loved. And the book is designed for couples. When you fall in love, it's wonderful. But that only lasts 2 years. We've studied it now. The average is 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, you come down off the high, and that's when you realize that what your mother told you about them is right. Before you got married, your mother said, honey, have you considered? He hasn't had a steady job in 5 years. And you said, oh, Mama, give him a break. He's waiting for the right opportunity.
Right.
But you found out Mama was right. He's lazy. So when you come down off the high of the in-love experience, then you start seeing the other person's flaws. And you start focusing on those, and you start criticizing them. And before long, you're wondering, why did we get married? We don't like each other. I mean, we don't really like each other at all. Why did we get married?
Yeah, we're not compatible at all.
Yeah, not compatible.
I mean, what works? I mean, nothing fits, okay?
Yeah. Sure. So what I'm doing in that book is saying to couples, this is natural. There are 2 phases to this to romantic love. One is the in-love stage, which doesn't require any effort at all. I mean, it just flows. The emotions are there, and you're the best person you're ever going to be when you're in love. But when you come down off the high...
This is discouraging, Gary. This is discouraging. I don't know if I like this. Okay, go on. No, I'm kidding.
But when you come down off the high, you have to learn how to communicate love. And what makes you feel loved is not necessarily what makes the other person feel loved. And so what we typically do is whatever makes us feel loved, I call that your love language.
Right.
Whatever makes you feel loved is what you do for your spouse. So here's a husband. Let's say his language happens to be physical touch, that if she reaches out and touches him, in any way.
Strokes plays with his hair in the back of his neck, whatever, just whatever.
If she initiates touch, he feels love. So what does he do? He comes home in the afternoon. He wants her to know that he loves her. He walks in the room where she is. He starts hugging her and kissing her on the neck. And what does she do? Leave me alone. Can't you see I'm busy? And the poor guy walks out feeling totally rejected by her, you know?
Here he was expressing love in the best way he knows how.
He was as sincere as he could be.
Sure. Okay.
But the problem was he was speaking his own love language, not her love language. See, her language may have been acts of service, doing things for her. If so, the greatest thing he could have done would have been to walk in the room and say, honey, why don't you sit down and rest and let me finish that for you? Wow, her love tank fills up because he's speaking her love language. So that's what that book is trying to do, help couples learn each other's love language and how to speak it so that the love tank stays full even after you come down off the emotional high of being in love. So that's the whole story.
That's the challenge. And it's interesting, it was actually what people were critical of their mate about is what helped you, which triggered this for you. I mean, so they were expressing their own heart.
Yes.
In their criticism of their mate.
So consequently, Willard, if you want to know your spouse's love language.
You're right, help us, because this is what people right now, no, they're saying, but do we even know our own? I mean, this is what I'm wondering. Yeah. We don't know that there's a difference there. We never stop to realize it, but go ahead.
Yeah, until people get this concept, they just do what comes natural, and consequently, they miss each other.
Yeah, right.
And that's where thousands
They're missing in the dark
are.
again and again,
Yes.
and yet they both love each other, and I'm sure marriages have broken up, divorced, and everything, simply because they didn't realize one loved the other because they didn't hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you do, there's 3 ways to figure out your love language and your spouse's love language. First of all, you observe yourself. How do I express love to people? If you're a hugger, you're always hugging everybody you encounter. Physical touch is your language. So you're doing for others what you want them to do for you.
Okay.
If you're always giving gifts, which is another one of the languages, if you're always giving people gifts and thinking about who you could give a gift to, then gifts is probably your language. If you're always giving people encouraging words, words of affirmation, which is another one of the languages,
sure.
and you're always looking for things to affirm people about, then words of affirmation is probably your language. So you look at how you express love to others. That's a clue on your own love language. Then a second clue is, what do you complain about? If you're saying to your spouse, we don't ever spend any time together. I mean, we're like 2 ships passing in the night. You're saying, quality time is my love language, and we don't get any quality time. We're just passing in the dark. If you say to your spouse, I don't think you would ever touch me if I didn't initiate it, you're saying physical touch is my language. If your spouse goes on a business trip and comes home and you say, you didn't bring me anything, you're saying gifts is my language. So listen to what you complain about. And then thirdly, what do you request most often? If, for example, you say to your spouse, could we take a walk after dinner? You're asking for quality time. Just the 2 of us. Let's take a walk together. If you say to your spouse, would you give me a back rub? You're saying physical touch is my language. So if you put those 3 things together, how you typically express love to others, what you complain about, and what you request most often, you'll know what your love language is.